Salve, friends. Hello, ignorante. Um, Today I want to talk about the Georgia Guidestones. Now, if it seems that I lurch from subject to subject and I don't get into any one subject fully, let me disabuse you of any notion that this is, a jack of all trades, master of none uh, uh, endeavor. In fact, I read a book called The Turning Point by Fritjof Capra, who C-A-P-R-A, Fritjof Capra, in the 1990s, late 1990s, I think it was. It was called The Turning Point. And in this book, he expressed the need for subjects in academia, all these streamed subjects. You are in physics, or you are in biology, or you are in history, or you are in geography. Um, he said that this was not a good way to holistically understand reality. And so if you stream subjects radically in this way, you're going to come up with a very distorted, well, I am probably embellishing my own words. Let me not say he said this directly, but my understanding was you're not going to have a reality-based model no matter how many experts you have, because if everybody is just an expert in their field and they cannot cross-link this information to other sources. So, for instance, somebody like Andrew Breitbart was a visionary, and so he said, politics is downstream of culture. Correct. So you can't understand geopolitics if you do not understand the culture, and the culture is a very far-reaching term. It's what music do they listen to, what do they buy, what are their consumption habits, um, where is most of their time being spent. So the Georgia Guidestones actually is a subject which is integrally associated to my interest in war and geopolitics, because war is a primary depopulation mechanism. So wars have been used to kill millions of people. So if I'm worried about World War III and I see depopulation signals on the horizon, I am indeed going to put two and two together and add it up. I'll leave a nice sign in the comments if I remember to do that. My goodness, my dogs are playing. Okay, there's nothing I can do. If they fight, I have to leap in and risk life. You don't fight, don't fight, don't fight. I can't afford to go to the doctor. Okay. Okay, if you bite each other, then if you fight, then you're getting mean. Okay, enough now. Peaky, enough. Enough. Yeah, no, seriously, they are very unruly, callous dogs. Complicated. Another story for another day. So the Georgia Guidestones were recently demolished. Obviously, with some sort of a detonation from what reports indicate. And that in itself could have been a rebel who decided, I'm going to tear down those Guidestones now once and for all and show the elites I'm really in control. However, what suggests to me that this is not the case is the fact that the cleanup job was so quick. So when something like this happens, thinking forensically, I did a year of forensics at university. So the first thing you want to do is secure the perimeter of the crime scene. Somebody blew something up, that would need investigation. And so the local authorities, the sheriff, I would assume, would go in, cordon off the area, and then post guards to make sure nobody interferes with the evidence, moves anything, or touches anything, because if they do so, you cannot reverse engineer back the crime. You've now got a contaminated crime scene. How do you see where the detonation was primarily aimed? What was used? What type of combustibles were involved, how much calculation, in fact, was involved to bring down the Georgia Guidestones. And so you would want an intact crime scene and nothing in it disturbed, so that investigators, and this would, probably scale up from the sheriff to FBI, they would call them in, and various other experts, indeed, to assess how did this happen, who did it, and why did they do it, and can we reconstruct how this demolition occurred. Well, it appears nobody can reconstruct this demolition, and nor will they ever be able to, because the cleanup was so quick and so thorough that there was no time to examine the evidence. This is not a good sign, because that means that whoever removed the evidence, it's quite a lot of granite to remove, whoever removed it must have quite considerable leverage in power structures in America, shall we say. And so we do not look at the quick removal of the evidence as an indicator that it might have been somebody who wanted to teach the elites a lesson. Then we have to move on to what are the other possibilities. My instinct when I saw it was this is a signal. It is a signal to commence something. Why did I think that? Well, probably because I've been following the escalation in the conflict in Ukraine and the South Pacific and quite a few other places with a keen interest. And so, again, the four horses of the apocalypse, what's it, famine, plague, we've had a plague, we've got a war, I can't remember, there's one more, and then there's famine, and so basically we are definitely looking at apocalyptic times. So if this is true, does the population involved have no say at all in their future? And I would suggest no. I would suggest it was a decision they took with informed consent when they agreed to go on a hubristic folly to liberate yet another country, when the last country they liberated, Syria. I'm sorry, I do have dog kids. Their children are playing with their hearts, and they like to swear. My dog, come, Syria. Come, my darling, come. Beetlejuice, come, come, Sirius. So, yes, when a nation embarked on the liberation of yet another country, despite the fact that that country has just come fresh off the cataclysmic and disastrous escalations and conflicts and freedom struggles. What was the last one? It was Assad must go. Assad. Bashar al-Assad was, of course, is still, it's the curse of Assad. Who must go? Assad must go. And it's just a whole list of toppled Western leaders in the wake of the Syrian presidents. Yes, despite all Western attempts, he has remarkably managed to hang in there. So if you just got out of liberating Syria, and what is the country? Afghanistan. That's super. So you withdrew the troops from Afghanistan to move them to a new conflict zone. And your memory is so short that you cannot remember that it was a cataclysmic fail. You did not remove Bashar al-Assad from Syria. You did kill Gaddafi and you destroy the entire country in the process. So they're not liberated from a tyrannical ruler so much as they are liberated from the shackles of, food, safety, relative stability, that type of thing. So that didn't go very well, and yet you enthusiastically are prepared to launch into yet another war of liberation. So when I see this kind of folly, I have to question to myself, how much is the collective unconscious of the West actually, does it have an ideation towards causing its own destruction? Is there any such ideation? And is it a rational, sane decision, or is it pure narcissism and vanity? So when I look at the Georgia Guidestones, as I say, I took it as a signal for some form of depopulation agenda to commence. It helped that I knew of the escalation in the conflict in Ukraine. And so it seemed to me perfectly obvious that these two things, while I cannot prove definitively they go hand in hand, I can make a good argument, and there is a hypothesis that deserves a fair hearing, that they are linked. Of course, in the American mind, this is not the case at all. So, to get back to the Georgia Guidestone, I have to question, there's obviously a depopulation agenda there. And so the first question then is it malicious, brilliant, evil? Or is it sly, stupid evil? So sly, stupid evil would be, I am the king of the world, I am going to kill all these people, and this is going to be my territory. That is the type of profile I would expect from sly and stupid. This one seems considerably more thought out. So we are dealing with evil brilliance. Bad and good. Why is it bad and good? Well, stupid evil you cannot reason with. I think it was Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was placed in jail by the Nazis, and he wrote a definitive essay on stupidity versus brilliant evil, and he said you always want to deal with brilliant evil as opposed to stupid, because brilliant evil will think to act in its own best interest, whereas stupid evil will cut off its nose to spite its face, and it will cut off its children's nose as well. So you want to look at who is behind this. Almost certainly not anything to do with the Freemasons, because the Freemasons in America had me say Albert Pike's the statue would not have been taken down. I forget which city. So Vatican, I don't know. They wouldn't put it up in the first place. And also the Vatican tends to preserve. They might hoard a lot, but to their credit, we have all those statues, Michelangelo, Sistine Chapel, Leonardo da Vinci, Last Supper. So the Vatican, while it may absorb resources, it doesn't tend to demolish them. It tends to, preserve them for posterity. So those two are out. What about the evil Zionists? Yeah, I can go into this in another one, but that whole entire theory is just bizarre gibberish. I mean, it's wonderful spin control from MI6, I have to say, on, the Balfour, was a Balfour document, yes. Arthur Balfour was a remarkably brilliant and genius man to do the switcheroo and make the bankers responsible, and anybody who still believes the bankers are running things. Oh my goodness, I have some financial reports to bring reality to your door, but perhaps another time. So back to who would do such a thing. Well, clearly the persons involved see themselves as a sort of a guardian of the planet role. They are not thinking in terms of destroying the planet. They are talking about holding it in balance for perpetuity. Okay, so this is somebody who might be reasoned with if they could see that depopulation was not required to hold the planet in balance, then we could possibly make an argument to them and then launch an appeal to them and say, well, look, maybe we have been a little bit irresponsible, but we're all going to knuckle down and be more responsible now. So how about you hold off on the depopulation agenda? Of course, nobody has done this. So how would a guardian of the galaxy go about selecting millions of people to be culled, basically? And how would they do it, and what would be their motivation? As a child, I was born in Namibia, and it's a desert region, southwestern coast of Africa. And I have a vivid memory of there was a drought, and there are very big buck called kudus. And we had a lot of kudus. They roam wild. You would go to a safari, a game park to see kudus. So the kudus roam around, and unfortunately, when a drought comes, because it is a desert region, there is not enough water and food to sustain the burgeoning population. And then it is a very ugly and wretched death. So they slowly starve and they die of dehydration. And so I remember my father and his friends going out to cull the kudu, and in no sense was this an ill-intended random, we're just going to go and kill them because yeehaw, that's what we do for fun. There's nothing like that. And in fact, I could see, putting myself in the position of a kudu, that it would be a merciful thing to end your life quickly at the hands of an experienced hunter with a clean shot than what it would be to die slowly. And so that has always been very vividly impressed upon me. And it has even occurred to me in musing that sometimes your killer may be your savior. You know, maybe a random bullet fired saves you from goodness knows how much misery down the line that you would have to endure, and perhaps then get a terrible illness. So you have to take a very balanced and holistic approach when you're talking about these things. So this is it's a kind of a guardian of the galaxy role that they see themselves in, a planetary responsibility, stewardship. Again, how do you pick people and why do you pick them? Well, I put it to you that if you had a population, a civilization sprang up, and the key features of this population were narcissism, incredible vanity, vanity to the point of idolatry, where the people have now all installed privacy browsers. They don't watch the mainstream news. Not that the mainstream news is perfect, but it was a way to get everybody's minds focused on one single reality. Instead, we have a very fragmented reality, and it is existing not in reality at all. It is a figment of very delusional, fevered imaginings and minds who have cut off anything they do not want to hear about. So we have an American and United Kingdom and Canadian population privacy browsers, their favorite shows, their favorite sources. You know, it's Mike Adams. And I actually have nothing against Alex Jones. I just don't think that geopolitics is his strong suit. On domestic matters, he may know something. Ditto Mike Adams, or very alarmist. But you know, these are men who have got. I don't doubt their intentions, and those intentions can also be used to bait them into fake loops. So if you feed them bad information, sorry, I have got out of control asthma. I'm on a minimum of a medication, really expensive to breathe, really expensive addiction I have to breathing, and yeah, it's very expensive. What can I say? You know, eat, breathe is kind of a daily choice. Yes, so people who might be well intentioned are ripe pickings for disinformation. And so if you send them a couple of insiders with bad intelligence, and they then get caught up in that bad intelligence, and then, you know, it is the confirmation bias. They will look for pieces of information that fit in with that. So the Western idea has always been that it is their own governments who are coming to cull them. And that's why we have FEMA camps and all of these theories. You know, take away our guns, and then they're going to cull us. And nowhere in this deluded, ill-informed fantasy did they ever factor in, wait, it might be a foreign power that our government is going to get us into and turn us into live bait on our own territory. And perhaps they might even be on the payroll of this foreign power. And what would that mean? That would mean you're in very big trouble. That's what it would mean. But you cannot see what you will not see. There are none so blind as those who will not see. So if, as I have been doing for 8 straight months, I go to Americans with actual information on what is happening, you know, in the greater world outside of their privacy browsers and their friends and their positive vibrations, and just absolutely, I'm so glad Alex Christoforou called it delusional, because I had that word in mind for a while, and when Alex finally used the word delusional, I felt the weight of my shoulders come off. I can say I'm quoting this guy who's an absolute master geopolitics expert, and you should check out his channel, Alex Christoforou. I'll put it in the links. The Duran, he is part of the Duran. The other member is Alexander Mercouris, outstanding geopolitics expert. So they both have separate channels, and then they have a joint channel called the Duran, Duran. However, they are from Cyprus, and they have got, you know, foreign sounding names. So their audience does not tend to be Americans, and Americans definitely prefer information that suggests to them that they are the greatest civilization which ever lived. They are the peak civilization. The West is the best. Every other country, they give aid to foreign countries, and everybody from those foreign countries just wants to come to America and take their stuff, by which they mean their cars and their health. And even worse, because money is what America and the United Kingdom, the Anglosphere, they worship Mammons. They are basically Mammon worshippers. They worship money. So the idea that they are giving money to a third world is more abhorrent to them than the idea that they would be sacrificing their own children to Moloch in a war machine situation. So it is harder for them to part with $5 to send aid to another third world shithole country, as they put it, than what it is to actually just stand by while World War III rolls on and turn your kids into war bait. So we have a vanity, a delusion that we think we are the best in the world. And why do I say this is a delusion? Well, if you are the best in the world, you're the greatest civilization that ever lived, yet you are held hostage by nameless elites. The typing. Freemasons. It's the black nobility. It's the Vatican. You know, there's always well, you can't be the greatest civilization if nameless elites can hold you in their power and grip. Then you are not the greatest civilization de facto. So you have excluded yourself on that basis. Alexander the Great was Alexander the Great because he was not hostage to any little elites or anything, so everybody in his nation could say, well, we are from the greatest nation and the greatest civilization. Look how much we built. Look how much territory we conquered. Look at all our achievements. And the West can only say that they are hostage to nameless elites. So that is a fatal blow to the concept of superiority. Another fatal blow to the concept of superiority is your very own leaders, you know, are lying to you. They are lying. You know they are lying. They know you know they are lying, and the rest of the world knows you know they are lying. And so it is with some disbelief, like, wow, that we watch you saying, I had a conversation with somebody, PhD from the United Kingdom, smart girl. And so she was explaining to me why they simply could not afford to push through on Ukraine and make sure that the Russians were fended off. And well, I was intrigued to know what, you know, I mean, everybody deserves to have a hearing. So I had a discussion with her, and she said, you know, how we're going to have a look. I'm not going to reveal her name or anything like that. So I said, look, in this situation, the United States and the United Kingdom are at a very great disadvantage, not least because Russia and China have ganged up, kind of thing. BRICS has kind of joined forces. And so if you keep pushing the military option over there, not only are you logistically challenged, you don't have ground forces to go in, but you are also provoking a possible hard retaliation onto your own countries. She was unmoved by an answer. She said something about permitting the seizure of Alaska, Taiwan, Indo-Pacific. No, this is not what I said. I said, for right now, your army is losing. Okay, your proxy army, whatever it is that you want to call it, they're losing. They're losing cataclysmically. And if you're going to escalate, that means your leaders are de facto consenting to the next level of weapon. And that is just absolutely terrifying. That is weapons unprecedented in history. Hypersonic missiles, things that will reach the United Kingdom, that will reach the mainland. It will not be something that happens far away. It will be something that happens. So my entire hypothesis to her was, right now you cannot afford to provoke this conflict any further because it's going to escalate to weapons unprecedented in history. And she said, your threats don't mean anything. And I pointed out, look, I am nobody. I cannot make threats. I am not a superpower. I do not I don't know how you say, reading what I'm telling you, this is the situation, here are journalists, here are people to go and look at. And she said, no, the aid is intended to defend Ukraine, not directly attack. The misrepresentation of is yours, and the threats of nuclear attack are yours alone. I can't make such a threat. I was referring to I have uploaded it on this channel, President Putin, an address he made to the Western population, journalists. He addressed the journalists. He said, "Why do you keep lying to your populations? Do you not see how this is going to invariably scale into a catastrophic war?" And so I was trying to explain to her that you must de-escalate the situation as a matter of urgency. And she was determined to tell me that I don't threaten anybody. I'm not a superpower, and also no war is being waged in my name. It's not on. I'm not British. I have no British blood. There is my flag in this. There is no my army. There is no my money. There is nothing of mine in this. So I'm not making threats. I am pointing out, like, whoa, heads up. You might want to calm down the rhetoric over there, because this could actually, if this scales up in weaponry, do you not think that perhaps foreign powers might be able to throw things at you in your own home countries? Do you not think that is possibly an option? No, no, not at all. Consider to tell me that that the West is the greatest civilization ever. I said, I see. So you think Boris Johnson is a triumph? Oh no, no, no. Boris Johnson's horrifying. Boris Johnson knows nothing. What do you mean Boris Johnson is? Oh God, no, I don't support horror. Oh, okay, but and then proceeds to tell me about the social credit system and the lockdowns and the injections, and I'm going, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you think Boris Johnson was horrible to you when it came to, and then suddenly he is an oracle of truth, a fountain of knowledge when it comes to Ukraine. You saying that Biden got you in all kinds of trouble and is taking away your liberties and stripping your gun rights, but you totally believe that he's 100% right to pursue a conflict and to escalate to World War III. Damn! How do you live with that kind of cognitive dissonance? Because you're the greatest, but you are controlled by shadow elites. You have the best civilization in history, but everybody's fighting over what is the definition of a woman. I mean, as a friend of mine from Zimbabwe, and just let's be multicultural over here, because let's make room for African values as well. She comes from a very traditional African background, and she pointed out, she said, look, if they don't know if it's a boy or a girl, I mean, that's the end of it right there. That's the West is then broken. She calls it overseas. She says overseas is broken. And I said, yeah, pretty much. And she said, yeah, if you don't know whether it's a boy or a girl, well, how are you going to even evolve to, get firewood, find shelter, deter enemy strike? It's just an absurd proposition. So they're busy arguing about what criteria it takes to be a woman or a man. And yet they still assure me that this is the greatest civilization that ever lived. And by now, I am skeptical, to say the least. I'm skeptical, to say the least. So if I then change my thinking back to what type of a guardian of the galaxy might wish to make millions of people go away, under what circumstances? Somebody pointed out something very interesting to me a few days ago. And why do I find information? I said, well, I make myself a target. And so as well as getting a lot of hostility, I also get a lot of good information. And so people will just pop in, say hi, and drop a few useful hints to, further that, like, thank you. You certainly pointed out some useful things to us, and not to them, to be sure. We can see they really, really hate you for telling them the truth, but it's that Jack Nicholson thing. I want the truth.